Hey there, viewers. The headlines are already swirling. Just as Beyoncé was summoned to appear in Diddy's case, she packed her bags and left the country. The timing has raised eyebrows everywhere, and people are asking what she might be trying to avoid. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Flight That Wasn't on Record. I got there around 4:12 a.m. The air was still clinging to its night chill, that kind of coastal damp that fogs the edge of your glasses and makes you feel like you're half sleepwalking. Most nights at the South Runway gate are dead quiet. Maybe one or two execs trying to dodge LAX, a Saudi royals courier picking up crates, or some pop star's hairstylist screaming about misplaced luggage. But not this morning. They told me there'd be a flight, no details, just Level 7, manifest sealed, treated like diplomatic. I don't get to ask questions at this job. I sign, I clear, I hand over keys, and pray the tower logs don't light up with any questions. I don't even know who signs the invoices anymore. Ever since the old manager got replaced and the holding company switched names last year, the emails come from blank aliases. Additic West or Coastal Logistics Node 2. Out of coffee, half cold, half chemicals, my back was acting up again. I'd been on the floor 14 hours straight the day before because some indie label booked 3 back-to-back overnight cargo runs to Paris. Now I'm standing there, clipboard in hand, trying to make out the registration number on the side of the incoming Gulfstream. No tail ID, just matte black metal. Even the fuel truck looked nervous pulling up beside it. Then the team stepped out, not a word between them. 4 of them, all in matching long coats, pale gray, with an insignia I'd never seen before stitched into the cuffs. Some kind of hourglass symbol, but turned on its side. One of them was holding what looked like a portable diffuser, the kind spas use. They didn't spray anything, they just kept letting the scent leak into the air. Floral, but overly clean, like flowers that had been pressed into a lab report. I knew that scent, or something close to it. I'd smelled it once in 2019. She flew out of this same gate, same hour, just after that performance at the Rose Bowl. Again in February last year. No crew, just the entourage, and a strange set of metal cases they refused to open. Same scent, same silence, but this time it was different. Heavier. The kind of quiet that made the runway feel like a church. You know what I mean? Not empty, sacred. One of the women handed me a file folder, blank cover sealed with wax. Inside, the night's flight log. Except there were no names, no weight manifest, no destination city, not even a weather report. Just a single handwritten instruction. No tower pings, manifest sealed. It's for her. That capital H wasn't mine. It was written like it mattered. I double-checked the fuel line, nodded to the load crew, and waited for the luggage. 2 cases. First one, titanium, boxy, like something that belonged in an embassy, not a stage. Second one, smaller, velvet wrapped, a pouch shaped like it was made for a VHS tape. Who the hell flies with analog media in 2025? No one talked. Not even the pilot, who wore dark gloves and never once removed their sunglasses. It was still pitch black outside. I watched the boarding from my usual post just behind the service rail. I couldn't see her face, but I saw the figure. Wide-brimmed hat, no assistant helped her step up. She walked like she knew the air would shift for her, and it did. You ever seen people part around someone without realizing they're doing it? That's what happened. She didn't nod, she didn't wave, she just disappeared into the cabin. The door sealed quietly, not a click. More like a hush. I waited for the clearance light, even though I knew the tower wouldn't ping it. Our system doesn't log flights like this. Hell, our backup cameras don't even register the tarmac after these charters leave. But habit makes you wait. So I stood there and watched the sun pretend to rise behind the fog. It never quite showed its face. When I went back to the operations trailer, I checked the external feeds. Every single frame from 4 o'clock to 4:48, I'm ecstatic. Nothing. I ran the thermal logs. No heat signatures. I ran the gate pressure sensors. Flatline. I looked at the clipboard to see who signed off on the manifest. Someone had written in fine tip red ink, "Do not summon her in public. The performance was private." That's when the knock came. Not on the trailer, my phone. No number, no caller ID, no ringtone, just the vibrating kind that you can hear in your bones. I let it buzz twice. I shouldn't have picked up. I know that now. A voice, low and scratchy, like it had been filtered through reel-to-reel hiss, said, "That wasn't an exit, it was an extradition." Then nothing. I sat there for a minute, the air in the trailer turning colder like someone had opened a fridge door behind me. I looked at the floor. The velvet pouch was there. I didn't see anyone bring it in. I didn't open it. I just stared at the edge of the cloth, the way it curled like it had been dipped in old perfume. Something on it shimmered faintly, like glitter from decades ago, rubbed into the velvet with memory and regret. The screen on my monitor turned itself off. All I could hear was humming, and somehow I knew the song. Chapter 2. The sketch that wasn't supposed to be seen. It was just supposed to be a quiet shift. One of those slow nights where you mop the same stretch of floor twice just to keep yourself awake. Most of the court had been cleared by then. Jury panels dismissed, sealed sessions filed away, and the media bay locked up tight. Second basement floor was where the dust lived, where nobody ever bothered with tours or press photos. Just us night crew, the boilers, and the walls that never got painted. I'd been working here 15 years, give or take. You start to recognize the sound of a building that's gone quiet. But that night, something was off. Not loud, just tuned wrong, like the hum of the ceiling lights was in the wrong key. I was replacing a cracked outlet cover behind the old vending machine wall, near the closed testimony corridor, the hallway that doesn't show up on any floor plan, but still gets swept twice a week. One of the guys calls it the ghost lane. I never liked that name, but I knew what he meant. That hallway doesn't echo right. So I'm unscrewing this busted metal plate and notice the wall behind it feels hollow, not drywall hollow. False panel hollow. Someone had slipped a sheet of backing behind it. I pulled the cover all the way off and tucked between the insulation and the frame. There it is. A sketch. Not just any sketch. Courtroom grade. Thick paper, chalked edges, labeled like all the official ones. But this one had no stamp, no initials from the court artist, no session number. Just a single note scrawled under the figure in pencil. Witness 13. Do not transcribe. The drawing showed a courtroom I recognized. The North Chamber. The one used for sealed testimonies when the press gets kicked out. But this one had a detail I couldn't place. There, behind the glass partition where observers sometimes sit, was a woman with a wide-brimmed hat. Her face was left blank. No nose, no mouth, no eyes. Just white, except for the pupils' two faint glowing dots like they were watching right through the sketch itself. My arms felt cold, not the kind of cold from the AC, the kind you get when something old brushes past you and doesn't stop walking. I took the sketch back to the maintenance office and laid it flat on my desk. The paper had weight to it, not standard issue. It was almost like parchment. The edges were frayed, like they'd been torn from something thicker. There were smudges, not charcoal, but red, dried. I thought maybe it was a prank, some intern artist trying to be edgy, but when I flipped it over, there was a faint embossing in the back corner. Session 9, Testimony, B.B. The initials didn't mean anything to me at first, but something about them stuck in my head, like a lyric you forgot you knew. I checked the work log system and punched in the session number. Denied access. Said the file was archived under Level 6 judicial clearance, which is nonsense. Level 6 isn't a real tier in our building. It's something they used to joke about upstairs, like saying sub-level 7 or vault court, just fiction. But I knew better. I'd seen weird before, so I did what I shouldn't. I went to the private records monitor in the filing room, the one used by the security auditors and night IT team. You need 2 badges to log in, but everyone knows the password's the same as the cleaning vendor from 2012. I scanned the sketch into the system and tried pulling up the digital record tied to session 9. The screen lit up once. Then everything shut down. Hard. Monitors flicked, lights popped once. Then the smell hit me. You know that scent when electronics overheat? That coppery, cooked wire kind of smell that clings to the back of your teeth? That mixed with something sweet? Too sweet, like perfume gone sour. The paper started bleeding. I swear to God it bled. Red leaked from the edges of the sketch like someone had hidden veins inside the paper, and now they were bursting open under the light. It didn't drip. It bloomed, staining the desk, curling the corners, twisting the image like it wanted to turn into something else. That's when my supervisor came in. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask why I was in the secured filing room. He just looked down at the sketch and said, deadpan, "You're not clearing trash anymore. You're clearing memory." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat had gone dry and my jaw felt locked. He didn't scold me, didn't report me. He just pulled out a box of latex gloves, handed me a file folder, and said, "File this under corridor noise, level 0. Then walked out like we were done. But I wasn't. I couldn't leave it alone. I waited till he was gone, turned off the hallway cams, and folded the sketch. I wanted to keep it, just in case. Just to prove I hadn't dreamed it. When I folded it down the center, something caught my eye. On the inside, between the creases, someone had drawn a charcoal seal. Not ink, charcoal, soft and smudged, like it was pressed in by hand. It was the court seal, but wrong, twisted. The eagle was facing the wrong way and its eyes were scratched out. Beneath it, in fine, faded cursive, the queen was in the room. Not a queen, not metaphor, not pageantry. The queen. I stared at it for too long, my vision blurred. I felt dizzy. I could still see those glowing eyes from the sketch, like they'd imprinted themselves behind my eyelids. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that, because something else happened later, something I still haven't told anyone. When I got home, I took the folded sketch and slid it into the drawer under my socks. I closed the drawer, went to brush my teeth, came back. 20 minutes later, the sketch was gone. In its place, a VHS tape, no label, just a single sticky note on top. Playback, Session 9, Viewer U, Chapter 3. The playback was meant for her. The DOJ playback chamber doesn't look like much from the outside. Just another windowless hallway off the records floor, tucked between the audio forensics vault and the obsolete tech cage where they store all the stuff nobody wants to admit they still use. You've probably walked past it in 100 documentaries without noticing. That's kind of the point. Everything here is built to be forgotten. I'm just a sound guy. I don't wear a badge, and no one outside this building would ever know my name. I don't even sit in on most of the testimony, just clean up the raw audio after the court clerks botch the mic levels, or some guy keeps coughing over a sealed witness statement. My job is boring. I like it that way. But last Tuesday, something different came across my desk. It wasn't an email. It wasn't even a logged request. It was a folded paper slip inside a red envelope, sealed with department wax like it came out of a Cold War archive. The slip just said, Session 9, playback required, viewer cleared. No name, No return signature, no routing code, and it was written in blue pencil, not ink. I knew what Session 9 meant. We weren't supposed to say it out loud. A few of us joked it didn't exist. Just some phantom archive slot nobody had the nerve to delete. But everybody had heard rumors that it was part of the Diddy case, that the footage was cursed, that it wasn't about him at all. I went down to the media pull desk, gave them the slip. The archivist didn't look me in the eye, just disappeared into the back vault and returned with a lead-lined case. Inside was an old VHS cartridge, black, no label, no timestamp, just one handwritten phrase in silver ink. Playback, Session 9, for her ears only. I ran my fingers along the edges of the tape. It was cold, colder than plastic should be. I took it to Chamber C. That's the only room left with a working analog rig and isolated power. I closed the double-sealed door behind me and logged in with my keycard. The lights dimmed automatically. I checked the speaker filters. No one could listen in. This room wasn't connected to the DOJ intranet. That's why they use it for things they don't want filed. I slid the VHS into the deck and pressed play. The screen lit up, then flickered into static. At first, I thought the tape was damaged, but then the frame stabilized. No courtroom, no bench, no seal. Just a red-lit room. Studio lighting, but old, like something from the 90s with soft bulbs that hum if you stand too close. A chair sat in the middle of the room, but no one was in it. The mic was turned on, and someone was speaking. I'm speaking, humming. Softly, like she was remembering a melody, not performing it. At first, it was just sound. Low, layered, almost buried beneath the tape hiss. But I felt it before I understood it. The way you feel a note in your chest when the subwoofer's too close. Then she started to talk. I told him not to start the ritual. But he already had. He didn't rehearse it, he rewound it. The voice wasn't sharp. It was deliberate, like silk unraveling. I froze, because I knew that voice. I'd heard it when I was 6 years old, sitting on the floor of my mom's bedroom while she ironed her uniform before the night shift. She used to leave the TV on, always the music channels, and one time they aired this concert from 2003. I didn't know the singer's name back then, but my mom did. And now, decades later, I was hearing that same voice. Not a copy, not a sample, the same woman. Her vocal fingerprint hadn't changed. Breath patterns, pacing. It was her. But the video never showed her. Only her shadow, moving faintly in the background, like she was just beyond the camera. You could see fingers briefly pass in front of the lens once, gloved and slow. She never stepped into view. Whoever was conducting the session, if you could call it that, remained completely silent. It wasn't an interview. It was a performance. And I wasn't supposed to be the audience. She kept humming, then speaking in fragments. He left the gloves behind on purpose. They weren't for warmth. They were for memory. We don't carry fingerprints. We carry playback. I wrote it down. I don't know why. It felt like something you weren't supposed to forget, even if you wanted to. The screen flickered. I checked the timestamp. The counter on the VHS was rolling backward. That's when I realized this wasn't just a recording. It was reversing itself. Every time she stopped talking, the tape jumped a few frames back. Sometimes the audio looped, little words out of order, like someone was trying to edit in real time but couldn't keep up. And then, just before the tape hit the final segment, she whispered something so quietly I almost missed it. I left my gloves in the courtroom. Then nothing. Dead air. The tape kept rolling, but no sound. The screen stayed red for 20 seconds, then black. When I tried to eject the tape, it stuck for a moment, just long enough for me to hear one last burst of static. It wasn't noise. It was her Hume again. I packed the tape back into the lead case, resealed it, and turned off the console. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't tell anyone what I'd heard. I came in the next morning like nothing had happened, ran standard audio cleaning for some civil housing depositions, told jokes at lunch, ignored the pulse in the base of my neck. Then, after lunch, I went to my desk drawer to grab a set of mic filters. And there they were, a pair of red gloves, folded neatly on top of my appointment log. Satin, my size. No tag, no thread line, just sitting there like they belonged to me. There was no note, just a whisper in my head I couldn't shake. The playback wasn't meant for you. But now, you've heard it. Chapter 4, The Summons was delivered by hand. They gave me the file in a brown envelope, still warm from the printer. No email, no chain of custody. Just a midnight tap on the glass of my office door at Quantico and a flat voice saying, "You're being reassigned for 48 hours. Bring your black passport." I'd done international subpoenas before, usually high-stakes stuff involving defrauded CEOs hiding in Swiss cabins or cartel-lengthed investors with fake rehab stays in Barcelona. But this one was different. The assignment sheet didn't include a name, just initials. BK, sealed, executive directive, no court seal, delivery in person only. The destination was a consulate-owned safe house in London. Not a proper embassy suite, but one of those private diplomatic floors they keep above historic hotels, the kind people think are closed for renovations. The kind of place you need retina access just to knock on the door. I didn't even get an escort. Just a key card that pulsed red until I reached the right hallway, then flashed green. They warned me ahead of time. Don't speak, unless spoken to. Don't sit down. Don't look in any mirrors. I thought that was a joke. Until I stepped into the suite. She was already there. Alone. No bodyguards, no advisors, just her standing near the window, humming something so soft it almost blended with the hum of the walls. The suite was all mirrors, not just on the walls, on the ceilings, the doors, the table legs, the closet panels. Wherever you turned, her shape appeared again and again, refracted, repeated, bent like light struggling to remember what it looked like. She didn't speak at first, just kept humming. I stood there, holding the envelope, heart thudding in my chest louder than her melody. Even without introduction, I knew who she was. I'd never seen her this close before, only in pictures, on stage, in clips my sister used to loop on our living room TV while rehearsing dance routines, but there was no mistaking her now. The voice didn't belong to anyone else. Neither did the silhouette. She turned toward me slowly, her wide-brimmed hat casting a perfect circle of shadow across her face. I couldn't see her eyes, just her lips. She smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't warm, wasn't cold, just completely certain. I extended the envelope. My fingers felt stupid holding it, like they didn't belong to me. The paper trembled. She didn't take it. She looked at it, then looked through me. Then she said, "You already summoned me once. This is just rehearsal." The way she said it, like a line from a show I hadn't rehearsed, but she had, like I was late to something that already happened. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full, like a note held too long in a cathedral. She nodded once, not at me, but at something behind me. I blinked, and then I was outside, in the car, rain tapping against the windshield in slow, even beats. My chest pocket felt heavier. I reached in. The envelope was gone. In its place, a folded sheet of paper, stiff and sticky like it had dried over something wet. I unfolded it carefully. It was a lyrics sheet, handwritten, in red ink that didn't look like ink. The lines were shaky, not like they'd been scrawled in a rush, but like they'd been written by someone trying not to bleed. The words didn't rhyme. They didn't follow any melody I recognized. They read like instructions, but not for me. If the playback begins, let her hum. If the gloves appear, do not speak. If the room reflects more than once, you're in the loop you never left. The bottom corner had been thumb-smudged, half a fingerprint, partial print. I drove back to the consulate in a fog. I don't remember passing the checkpoint. I don't remember the flight manifest getting cleared. When I woke up again, I was in a motel room in D.C., with the lights off, fully dressed, my badge still clipped to my belt. 48 hours gone. No memory, no in-between. My service terminal was open on the nightstand. The screen was black. Then, as I reached for it, it lit up. A single audio file. No sender, no timestamp. Just a file name. Summons playback to viewer you. The play button pulsed once. I didn't touch it. But it started anyway. Chapter 5. Do not perform her memory out loud. Most of the other archivists head out by 6. I stay late, not because I love the work, but because I don't like the idea of unfinished folders sitting in their little bins like they're waiting for me. There's something rude about that. I figure if a piece of evidence made it this far, it deserves to be acknowledged, even if it's just for a few minutes before being sealed away for good. The floor I work on isn't glamorous. It smells like old carpet, printer toner, and that weird industrial plastic they use in the walls of windowless buildings. No one visits unless they're lost or in trouble. Some days I go 8 hours without hearing a single human voice. That night was a Friday. Storm was sweeping in off the Hudson. Most of the upper-level staff had already disappeared, and the elevator was set to night mode, which meant no one was supposed to be moving between floors unless security flagged it. I was sorting a stack of transfer boxes when I noticed the bottommost one didn't have a barcode. That's not supposed to happen. We've been digitized for 3 years now. Every piece of evidence, every folder, even the pens used to sign things, everything has a code, a scan, a file trail. But this box just had a sticky note on it, yellowed and curling. Freak-off session. Witness recused. I knew the case name. Everyone did, even though no one said it out loud anymore. Interns whispered it. Analysts rolled their eyes at it. But it still had a drawer, still had a folder in our system. A dozen redacted witness logs, a handful of sealed testimonies, and 2 playback tapes no one was allowed to review. I peeled the tape off and opened the box. Right on top was a VHS casing, the kind we used to use in the late 90s. Black plastic, heavy, with those little finger grooves on the side. This one had a broken reel inside. You could hear it rattling when you moved the box, like something inside had come unspooled and wanted out. There was no label, no time code. Just a smear of something along the edge. Could have been marker, could have been something else. Under that was a piece of cardstock, a courtroom sketch, but not like the official ones. This one showed a woman sitting in the gallery, angled slightly to the left. Her face was unmistakable, even though her mouth had been drawn stitched shut with black thread. Her eyes wide and luminous like they'd been inked in with charcoal and smudged deliberately to glow. Her hat was wide-brimmed, tipped low, just like the one I'd seen in Session 9's corrupted index. In the lower corner of the sketch, someone had written. She wasn't seated, she was stored. I almost put the lid back on right there. I didn't need this. I file things. I don't investigate them. I'm not here to get involved with sealed sessions and celebrity echoes and urban legend courtrooms. But then I saw the affidavit. It was short, 2 pages, tucked into a red file marked "Witness Recused," typed in Courier, the way older legal records sometimes were. But the margins were too wide, like the page was expecting to be read from a distance. The affidavit described a woman present during a specific portion of the 2015 Miami event. Her name was not explicitly stated, but her initials were used once, BK. The document described her as having observed, in proximity but not participated, that she had asked a question directly to the alleged victim. Did he play the tape backwards first? That line stopped me, because it wasn't the kind of thing a passive bystander asks. It was specific, intentional, framed like part of a sequence. The final paragraph of the affidavit contradicted everything I'd read in the amended case files. It claimed that the witness had not only spoken to the victim, but had done so after the lights went out, after the music had ended, in what the affidavit chillingly referred to as the memory rehearsal window. I stared at the last line, underlined twice. She wasn't testifying. She was remembering. I didn't want to know what that meant, but I knew I was going to find out. I loaded the VHS into our last working deck, deep in the far corner of the evidence lab. No one uses it anymore. It's mostly there for training simulations and reconstruction mock-ups. When I hit play, the screen took a moment to adjust. It flickered blue, then red, then settled into a faded studio setup. It looked like a talk show stage, but without an audience, just soft red light, no shadows, and a couch that didn't match the floor. A woman sat in the center, but only from the nose down was visible. The rest of her face had been overexposed or blurred digitally, like the footage had been altered. Her lips weren't moving, but the audio played over it anyway. Her voice, it didn't come out like dialogue. It came out like a recording of a memory. Soft, hollow, worn around the edges. I was in the gallery, not to see, to echo, and the image started to change. Her face didn't morph so much as it layered. Slowly, frame by frame, another face began to appear over hers. It wasn't immediate, you'd miss it if you blinked, but there it was. The jawline shifted, the nose thickened, the smile twitched. It was him. Diddy's face, overlaid like an unfinished sketch being painted across someone else's canvas. Their expressions didn't align. Her face was still, his smiled. He kept layering back and forth until they were impossible to separate. Not one inside the other, not one covering the other, one becoming both. My hands were shaking. I wanted to hit stop, but something in me wouldn't let go of the button, like the tape had to finish itself before it would release me. At the end, the screen didn't fade to black. It typed. You played her back, now remember her forward. I ejected the tape. The reel inside had snapped completely, like it knew it wouldn't need to be played again. I turned around to write up the chain of custody note, but the lights in the lab went out. And off flickered. Went black. Total silence. And then the song, humming, low, slow, unmistakable. Someone else was in the room. I couldn't see them, but I could hear the scratch of charcoal on paper. Someone sketching in the dark. Chapter 6. The lyric sheet was the transcript. I wasn't supposed to be in the studio that night. I hadn't touched a mastering deck in years, not since I got bumped up to executive review. I deal with sign-offs, not stems, legal calls, not late sessions. But we'd been getting strange inquiries. Whispers from clearance, back-end threats, internal flags popping up with no origin. Then one of the senior ops girls slid a drive across my desk and said, "Archive request, needs executive ears only." No label, just a project tag etched into the casing, PB6. Playback Ritual 6. That name meant nothing to me at first, but I recognized the initials. I'd seen them once, years ago, buried in the metadata of an unreleased Beyoncé track we shelved indefinitely. A deep experimental cut, supposedly part of a visual series that never dropped. No leaks, no press. We were told it was art film adjacent, unmarketable. But that wasn't the reason. Truth is, the song scared people. I remember the original engineers who worked the stems back then. Half of them left the company within 6 months. One overdosed. One filed for disability, citing neurological disturbance from exposure to feedback sequences. That was the official language. Unofficially, he claimed he couldn't sleep anymore without hearing the chorus in reverse. So yeah, I remembered Playback Ritual. And now someone had handed me its ghost. The studio was dark when I arrived. No assistance, no tech support. No one even knew I was there. I used my personal key to access Vault Room 4, the mastering booth we reserved for legal entanglements and high-profile leaks. The air inside felt too still, like the soundproofing was swallowing even my breath. I plugged in the drive. The waveform loaded instantly. The title didn't show up, but the embedded data labeled it. Playback Ritual 6, Revision Loop, cut for internal use only. No vocals at first, just a pulse, low like a heartbeat. Then a synth layer, off-tempo and warbled, like someone had stretched a music box over broken glass. There were fragments of piano, but not in any key that made sense, more like echoes from a rehearsal that never had a start time. Then the voice, soft, unfiltered, no effects. Her voice. I didn't need to check the vocal fingerprint. I knew who it was. There was no mistaking it. The tone, the restraint, the haunting clarity. But what chilled me more than the voice itself were the words. Arf made me dance with my shadow. You filmed it. Then a pause. The line repeated, each time with different inflection. Like she wasn't just singing, it was like she was trying to remember it out loud, trying to relearn what it meant, or worse, trying to force someone else to. The session log said the file was cut in September 2024, 2 full months after her public schedule showed her overseas, on retreat, off-grid. According to press at the time, she was somewhere in Iceland, working on a spiritual restoration program. But this wasn't Iceland. The session metadata said it was recorded in LA, in a studio that, technically, didn't exist anymore. I opened the embedded lyrics sheet. It wasn't formatted like a normal session doc, no verse-chorus structure, no timing notes, just lines stacked vertically, like entries in a journal. He brought the camera. I brought the mirror. He never clapped, only hummed. He said I was rehearsing. Knew I was remembering. I stood in the hallway. She stood in the playback. My hands started sweating. I didn't know why. There was nothing inherently dangerous on the screen, just words, but they had weight. Each line felt like it had a room echoing behind it. I clicked into the Notes tab. Here it was. One line. Encrypted, partially garbled from transfer. Release this and I become her. File it and I become you. There was no signature, but the timestamp was logged by our own internal system. 2:04 IEM, 4 hours before the track was ever registered. I wanted to unplug the drive, but something made me open the last window. A system-wide upload log. The master file, untouched for years, had been uploaded 12 minutes earlier. Not by me, not by anyone in the building, onto an anonymous node labeled Vernon Runway. That server didn't belong to us. It didn't belong to anyone. But the track was there, live, and someone was already listening. Chapter 7. Her glove was already in evidence. The cold case vault in DC doesn't get visitors, not real ones. Not the kind with names. Most of what we do down there is digital restoration, scrubbing degraded prints, re-indexing corrupted IDs, extracting clean metadata from evidence so dusty it should have stayed in 2015. That's where I work. Internal Affairs assigns us the evidence that doesn't belong anywhere anymore. I was halfway through auditing a crate labeled South Florida Trafficking Consolidated, a generic grouping from an older case set that got reopened when the Diddy raids turned into something bigger. Technically, the contents were supposed to be unrelated, items pulled from a seized storage unit that had been tossed between agencies for nearly a decade. Well, the gloves weren't in the lug. They were lying flat under a sealed Ziploc, pressed between two items listed as non-essential. Event flyers. One pair, deep red satin, elbow length, but not ordinary. The moment I lifted them, I could feel the texture. Smooth, but with just enough resistance to betray the tech embedded inside. I scanned them. Microfilament laced through the inner seams, lining embedded with what looked like microneedles, barely visible until angled into the light. Not needles meant to inject, but to collect. Fibrous, porous, designed for high-contact environments. Every fingertip could extract trace materials just from dancing, from touching, from clapping. This wasn't fashion. It was function disguised as performance. Initial swab tests came back with 4 DNA traces, all partial. 3 matched known victim profiles tied to sealed affidavits under the Diddy umbrella. 1 was still unidentified. The glove lining also contained a single, partial fingerprint. I ran it pained not to a legal database, not to Interpol, but to an old scan from a private museum exhibit in New York, a Beyoncé tour collection from 2018. One of the curators had logged backstage items with biometric scans for authenticity. The match wasn't 100%, but it was close enough to flag. Partial thumbprint, same glove cut, same stitching pattern from her 2016 visual album debut. I froze. We're not supposed to jump to conclusions. The job is input, analysis, forward. Let the lawyers spin the rest. But this wasn't the kind of match you get on accident. This was the kind of thing you don't report if you want to keep working here. Still, I logged it. Chain of custody, digital report, cross-reference inquiry. I submitted it for supervisory review. 10 minutes later, I got a reply. File under accessory presence, no chargeable knowledge, discontinue trace. That's not standard language. We use inconclusive or no prosecutorial value. But this was a decision, not a discovery. They'd already ruled her out before I'd even logged the glove. I checked the log history. Turns out, someone marked the item as reviewed 2 years ago. No name attached. Just an internal flag, DOJAE5, a designation used for sealed status witnesses. Possibly recused, possibly protected, possibly removed. That's when I saw the note folded inside the glove case, tucked just under the palm, almost invisible unless you were trying to feel for it. Written in tiny graphite strokes. She didn't wear them to dance, she wore them to record. There was a seal stamped over the sentence, like a wax symbol, but aged. The same corrupted DOJ eagle I'd seen once before in a glitch file from the Session 9 recovery team. I should have put it back. Instead, I opened the second layer of the crate. Beneath the gloves was a flat envelope, aged, sealed in archival film. Label burned into the plastic with thermal print. Playback Section 13, Viewer B. Sat there for a while, not moving, because I knew what Session 13 meant, and I knew who B Key was. And if she had a viewing role, then the gloves weren't evidence. They were the playback device. Chapter 8, she rehearsed the trial. Now you're watching her performance. You don't remember pressing play. You don't even remember sitting down. But the screen is already on, glowing faintly in front of you, though you can't say where the screen ends and the room begins. There's no clear edge to anything anymore. Everything reflects. The desk, the walls, even the chair under you. All mirrors now. Not glass, not metal, just smooth silver memory. And the playback begins. It doesn't start with the trial, not the part you've seen. It starts in silence. The hall, long, endless, covered in sketches, those courtroom ones, drawn fast and wrong, like someone was trying to remember without being allowed to look. You walk slowly, or maybe you're just drifting. Your feet don't make sound. You pass a gallery filled with people who have no faces. They're watching something on a screen you can't see. Then a voice begins. Soft, tonal, familiar. It's her. You don't see her yet, but the hum is hers. You recognize it not from concerts or albums, but from the background of those leaked recordings. The ones no one verified, the ones people say were AI faked, the hum that kept playing under victim statements like a memory someone left looping by mistake. The hallway dissolves. Now you're in a dressing room. A single bulb flickers overhead. She's there, sort of, just her arm, adjusting a glove. The red satin folds neatly over her wrist, inch by inch, the motion slow, too slow, like the footage is breathing. You hear someone in the background whispering. No words, just breath. Then the camera shifts. It's not a dressing room anymore. It's a courtroom. But not during trial. The seats are empty. The judge's bench is covered in dust. Still, she walks through it. Not as a defendant, not as a witness, as if she's rehearsing where to stand, where to look. She steps onto the witness platform. No one else is there. She hums again. This time, it echoes. The courtroom itself responds, like it knows the melody, like it was waiting. A jump cut. You're in a studio booth, red lit, bare walls. The hum becomes lyrics. Made me dance with my shadow. You filmed it. You hear the same line again. But this time, it's not her voice. It's layered. Her voice, followed by another, higher, cracked, terrified. A victim's voice. And another. And another. Each one woven into the same refrain. Playback isn't a song anymore. It's testimony with melody. Their memories aren't spoken. They're sung. Reversed beneath the beat, stretched across each bar like bruises hidden in harmony. Another cut. The gallery seat. She's sitting behind the glass now. Hat low, lips still. Her eyes are hidden, but you feel them. You feel watched. Not by the footage, but by your reaction to it. You realize the screen is showing you, not her. Your posture, your blinking. You try to move. You can't. The footage continues. Now she's in an interrogation room. Alone, but the camera shows two shadows on the wall. One is hers. The other doesn't belong to anyone visible. It moves before she does. When she lifts her hand, the second shadow claps. Not an echo, a rehearsal. Then, everything collapses inward. The courtroom, the gallery, the dressing room. All of it folds together like a stage set collapsing backstage. She appears in the center of the void, walking out of a federal courtroom. But the date in the corner reads 3 days before the trial began. Her coat is buttoned. Her face is unreadable. She doesn't wave. She doesn't pause. She's mouthing something. The footage slows, zooms. You can't hear her words. But your speakers begin to vibrate. Endant. Her voice, clear. You weren't watching me, you were watching yourself forget. The screen goes black. Then types. Playback begins. Roll, witness. You're. You. If you blink, you try to move your hands. They're covered. Red satin. Elbow length. You didn't put them on. You didn't bring them here, but they're warm and they fit. You look up. You're not sitting in a viewing room anymore. You're in the courtroom, not as the jury, not as the audience. The sketch on the wall shows your face now, lips stitched shut, eyes open. The humming begins again. You remember the tune. You start to mouth the words, and suddenly you're performing her memory.